Welcome to another episode of Speaking in Colors Saturdays, also known as Sick Saturdays. Every first and fourth Saturdays, we come to you with different topics surrounding our book that helps you to improve your form of communication. There are so many different things that people are experiencing and how they connect and communicate with each other. And we just really want to just make a difference in how you interact. Today, we're going to be talking about what is your energy transmitting to others. This is really based upon something that happened to me yesterday. As you know, if you are someone that have purchased a book, a lot of things that we talk about in the book is based upon our experiences, my daughters and myself, with me working in the federal government, in the music and entertainment industry, and the fashion industry, and hers in the real estate and beauty industry. And so no matter what industry we found ourselves in, we discovered that we were able to connect with people regardless of whether they were a fake it till you make it type person, whether they were bougie, as you know they're called, or whether they were down to earth, that we were always able to speak their language and create a win-win situation for themselves and ourselves to get to why we came together in the first place, whether it's friendships, a business relationship, an intimate relationship, or family. So based upon the book, that is what we have always been able to speak about, and which brings me to the topic today. So I was interacting with someone that I know from high school, and we're trying to see if we can broker a quality friendship. And as we're trying to interact with each other, there's some things that just piqued my mind and my interest, that I said to myself, wow, we have a similar background, grew up in the same community, had the same kind of family upbringing, but yet and still we have different perspectives on life, on our lives. And so I was just thinking about that. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to use the basis of the book, Speaking in Colors, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper today. We're going to talk about the Speaking in Colors test, assessment test, that helps you to better understand yourself based upon the colors frequencies of those that you're interacting with or you come in contact with. It is the same type of test that you would take Myers-Briggs, Carl Jung, or astrology, any of those type of things, where it may not be to the T of who you are, but it will still give you some tools and applications to help you to center around who you are, so you can better understand how to interact and connect, whether you know their colors or not, but you know yours. So as we get into it, you'll better understand what I'm talking about. So let me give you an overview. So the Speaking in Colors concept is helping you to understand that how you were raised, you being born, male, female, whether your culture, religion, whether it has to do with you're in the South, the North, the East, or West, you know, that type of environment. It has a lot to do with were you uprooted in a home that did a lot of fussing and cussing, or was it more of a calming environment? All these things has a lot to do with how you form your communication style and who you are and how you interact. So this person and I, you know, our fathers were very strict, and they did the old school belt whipping and all those kind of things. But one thing that's different between us is throughout the process of how I was raised and how I was born, I chose to start doing my work to improve and heal where he still lives in the past. Even to this day, he still remembers when we first met in high school. And he goes through these channels in his mind and in his conversations of the past that he is so stagnant that he can't live in the present. And I was like, wow, that's really something. It's really profound how some people can stay in one place, and how if you don't change anything, how it can cripple you for your future. It cripples how you communicate with others, because I found it bizarre that we were speaking different languages. It seemed like he wanted to also be combative, but yet and still he tried to flip it on me that I wanted to, but I was really just at peace. Am I perfect? No, not at all. But I just wanted to be at peace and just try to spend the time with him to see if we can cultivate a friendship. Where he was living in the past and asking me questions of the past and being combative about it. So I just want to talk about our test, and to help people to understand, whether you got the book or not, why it is important to know who you are deeply, who you are when you were born, your upbringing, how you're transmitting those frequencies, that energy to other people. And there are some ways to color correct those things. We talk about the 4 principles. And those 4 principles that born with is number 1, nature versus nurture, number 2, transmitting is number 3, and color correction is number 4. And it's so crucial in how you get the results that you need. So when you take the Speaking in Colors assessment test, there's a number of words, about 38 words, that you have to look at and choose only 15. It's important that you choose only 15 because the number 15 represents a lot of different things as far as the psyche in the mind. And you have to be mindful of what that is. The number 15, it represents harmonious life of matter and spirit. It represents steady flow of energy, source of power and cooperation. So that's why you're choosing only 15 words. Don't cheat, because if you do, you'll cheat yourself. So when you choose these 15 words, and the words can be something as simple as proficient, optimistic, unfriendly, impulsive, insincere, vigorous, cheerful, peaceful, flamboyant, social, live for the moment. Any of those words that resonate with you, then you choose only 15. Once you choose your 15 words, those words speak volumes. Remember what the number 15 resonates: harmonious life, power, cooperation, energy, spiritual flow. Those 15 words are going to speak to you in ways that you would never knew that it would. So once you choose those 15 words, you put the letter that corresponds next to the 15 words. For example, if one of your words is insincere, you put the letter O next to it. If one of your words is live for the moment, you put the letter Y next to it. If one of your words is dislike change, you put the letter B next to it. Or if one of your words is jealous, you put the letter G next to it. Now be truthful about the words you choose. Be honest. Own your truth. If you have, if word jealousy resonates with you, insincere, dislike change, vigorous, cheerful, hey, those are your words. So be truthful. Okay, now, these letters I'm telling you is associated with frequencies, with energy, with a form of communication styles. So let's go over them. The letter O is orange. That person is a social communicator that's comfortable being around other people and can function in any type of setting. The letter R is empowered. That person is confident and have a high self-esteem. The letter Y is mindful. That person is free-spirited and thoughtful of others. The letter P is purple. That person's creative, that has an artistic approach and method to things. The letter B is blue for acceptance. This person is accommodating and inclusive of others. The letter G is for green. That person is practical and they deal with things in a basic manner. So once again, now that you know the second part of the puzzle, you choose your 15 words out of the over 30 words, and then you use the corresponding alphabet of whether it's O for orange, R for red, Y for yellow, P for purple, B for blue, or G for green. And I was getting ahead of myself when I said A, because that depends on how you communicate. Social communicator, empowered, mindful, creative, acceptance, or practical. So once again, you choose only 15 words of the over 30 words, and you put the corresponding letter next to the words. Once you've done that, then you add up each category. So if you have 4 O's for orange, then you put a 4. If you have 5 R for red, then you put a 5. So you add those up according to the letters that you chose. And what's going to happen, you're going to come to a personality frequency. So for example, me, when I did the test, I came up with 2 frequencies. My first one was empowered, which is red, because when I'm in work mode, only work mode, I am confident and have a high self-esteem. But when I am just in my leisure time, having fun, like now, I get a little flighty and I operate in my yellow mindfulness. I'm free-spirited, but I'm thoughtful of others. So that determines your personality trait. Now, like my daughter, hers is purple. And it fits her personality because in everything she does, purple is creative. And that's how she approaches everything, with artistic approach and method, where she's creative in everything, whether we're gardening, whether we're thinking of a project and how to get things done, even in this book approach. It was really funny because I operated in my empowered, in my red, and she continued to operate in her purple, in her creative. And yes, we bumped heads at times, but I had to kind of wind myself down and say, okay, look at this in your yellow frequency energy. So once I was able to do that, I was able to be more accepting and was able to work more cohesively with her to get the book done. So this is what the Speaking in Colors assessment test tells you. It discusses and talks with you about how you can communicate for the end results that you desire. Like I said, us trying to create this book, we had to come to a meeting of the minds to be able to do that. And the tools within the book helped tremendously. The same as me working in the music and entertainment or fashion industry or in construction for the federal government, or her working in real estate and the beauty industry, where she has to be creative. So it really is a good tool. I know people say, well, I did the Myers-Briggs, I did the Carl Jung, but it really helps to see the color frequency and your creative side. Because those other tests talks about just strict personalities and how you approach things, how you get done. But what about that creative energy of the rainbow, that we all have? There's not a test like that until our book, that we want to just have people to understand there's a fun side to you. There's a side to you that others can see in a more fun way. So a lot of people have been able to take her test, excuse me, and been able to just have fun with it. And it's been funny because in classroom settings, Zoom virtual settings, no matter where I teach this material, people come away with, oh my God, this is me. This is how I really interact. Oh my God, because they were like a naysayer before they first started. But once they were finished, it was like, oh my God, and they're excited and share it with everyone in class. But we do have some people out of the 15 who have 3 in each category 5 times. And I tell them, that kind of person, I say, hey, well, it depends upon, I guess, maybe the situation that you're in, or you can have someone else closest to you to take the test on your behalf and see what they come up with, and see if they come up with 3 in 5 categories, or if they come up with something a little bit closer to who you are. Because the thing is, I also noticed that knowing your truth means also knowing what words and definitions mean. I had someone in class who stated she didn't know some of the meanings and definitions of the words. Easy peasy, get a dictionary. It's nothing wrong, because that's your truth. And don't try to fake and choose some words that you don't know a meaning of. So she felt really comfortable. First of all, I felt really honored that she was transparent enough to say this in a classroom setting of over 50 people. But then when I said to her, hey, go ahead and just get a dictionary and look the words up, she was like, yeah. And everybody was applauding her for that first step, because that's the first step. Once you find out who you are and your definition, then you can operate in your truth. You can really know who you are. So going back to my person, as we were talking, we were really trying to fully understand how to communicate with where he was in dealing with the past, and then where I was in living in the future. Because if a person does not do their work, and I know it's scary, to have to face that man in the mirror and kind of deprogram yourself on some things that have hurt you in the past that you really truly want to hold on to, because it's a familiar spirit. It feels comfortable. It feels good. But the thing is, if you want peace, if you want freedom, which he claimed he did, then you have to do the work. You can't say, oh, I got children. Your children are grown now. Oh, I have this. Okay, that's no longer an obstacle. You have to do your work. And COVID taught us so much. And people are getting to the point they don't want to deal with other people's mess. They're just done with that. So this is why I decided to come and talk about the assessment test in the book, because people were like, well, How do you take the test, or why is the test so important? These are the reasons why the test is important. These are the reasons why you have to understand and know who you are outside of, if you go into the Zodiac, Myers-Briggs, Carl Jung, what is that creative side? What is that creative color, frequency, energy telling you? So I'm also now going to kind of give you some quick quotes on some things that some people were kind enough to tell us about the beauty that they received from the book. Because it was really funny to really fully understand that different people had different experiences, like one person said, the books gives a wonderful new perspective on communicating and healing. I like the examples given for each concept about speaking in colors. It's easy to follow and comprehend. The old saying, don't judge a book by its cover, is true. That is so true, because we tend to see people and we judge them immediately by what we see, but that's not what we should be doing. But we're human. We tend to do that. And then another person said, reading on the toxic filters was difficult because it's like a mirror was being held up. My colors are off. My frequency is off. And it is true that transmitting of this and how I communicated with those I was isolated with were damaging. And they're thankful that there's a tool like our book, Speaking in Colors, that was able to help them in moving forward. Another person said, this new way of thinking helps them to have a powerful new insight and perspective. It's a great guide to communicate and to help people to have a concept of what they should know about themselves, which is so true. We all have things within us that sometimes we don't see that's glaring, but we sometimes also wonder, some of us who want to change and do better, why I'm not connecting, why I'm not communicating effectively. So I have someone here. We're talking about the Speaking in Colors assessment test, but we want to hear from you about how are you transmitting your energy to others? How is it working? How is it not working? What are some tools that you're using to improve how you communicate? Welcome.
What's up?
How are you?
Pretty good.
Good, good. Anything you want to share?
I'll give a little feedback.
Oh yeah, it sure is.
I don't know if it's coming to your mic or
Did you hear feedback from me when I was talking?
maybe next time I'm out.
Okay, okay. Okay, so yeah, we're going to continue. So it's really important though, because communication is key. Communication makes a difference in what we do and how we do it. So are you back?
Yeah.
You still have that?
Yeah, I think you might have to mute yourself.
Well, I'm recording. So yeah, I'm always recording. And so I can't, let me try to do this. Let me see. Hold on. Hope it still record the conversation. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I mean it'll record me. I mean, you just have to unmute yourself when you're talking. I mean, in terms of giving off energy, I'm usually a pretty direct person, or should I say, I guess direct and authentic. So for instance, this week I had a student who was very disrespectful. And so then the next time I saw him, he was smiling at me, but I was not smiling at him and I was not making eye contact. And so I guess he thought the smile, I think a lot of people do that with me. They think, oh, I had this conflict with Bernard. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to smile through it. I'm going to make him crack and make him smile. I'm like, no, I'm not just going to meet your energy level of smile because that's what you want me to do. Like, you're going to feel how I actually feel, because I'm communicating to you that the interaction I had, I was not pleased and I'm not pleasant. And so there's a problem. So I'm not going to just be like, hey, haha, what's going on? Yeah, haha, small talk. Nothing happened. Okay. And then just let it simmer. I'm just going to let you feel the real when you're in my presence the next time.
Yeah, and that is key, because the thing is, you are teaching through your energy how people are supposed to connect with you. Because if you let that go, then they know, oh, I can do him like this every single time. And they'll pass the word. And then that's they'll be the normal in the conversation. So yeah, we have to be mindful of the energy that we're transmitting to others and what we allow others to transmit to us. So that is so key. Yes, 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 yes. Is there anything else you want to say? Because we're not going to be on long today. We're just talking about the test pretty much. Because people are asking, and so this is being recorded and they can understand how to better answer the test.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, funny. And then like the next day, a similar situation. I mean, this person I actually hadn't seen for probably months now, because we had an interaction months ago, and it ended in a way where I was just like, I don't understand what happened with this person. I don't know. They crossed like a lot of boundaries. They said a lot of things or made a lot of assumptions, and at the end of the conversation, I was just like, okay, this went from like a pleasant moment to like the worst moment. So I just hadn't talked to that person for a while, but then I heard their voice walking down the street the other day, and I did this thing where it was like, oh wait, oh I know whose voice that is, and I was like, oh yeah, that's that person. And so I had to like check in and to be like, okay, am I still angry with this person? Or sometimes there's a part of me that's like, yeah, maybe you're not as angry, but you almost got to like tap back into that anger because you feel like, oh, right, it's right, I was angry. So then this person was just asking me questions, and then they were like, I was just kind of giving these kind of very monotone answers. They were like, what's up? I was like, what's up? And they were like, are you good? Yes. And then they were like, are you mad at me? I was like, yes. So at least they were aware enough to be like, they knew it for either from that moment, or perhaps they remember that interaction and thought, oh, that didn't end well, so I wonder where things are. But I feel like a lot of people don't do that. I feel like a lot of people, they don't have enough self-awareness or sort of self-worth to be like, no, I deserve better than how I was being treated. And I'm going to let you know. So it's not like I'm attacking you. It's just, this is what happened. And I'm not going to like deny the reality of how I feel. I think a lot of people don't abide, but in our culture, there's almost this sense that you're supposed to like, oh, just let it roll off your back. It's like, well, yeah, there's forgiveness. I've definitely learned how to practice forgiveness. So learn how to practice forgiveness, but there's a difference between forgiveness and just like denial.
That is awesome. Do you think that you and that person came to a meeting of the minds, though, after it was acknowledged that you're still pissed, hurt, whatever your real true feeling deep down was? Or you think that it's gonna be still be surfaced now from this point forward?
Well, this person suggested, hey, can we meet up in the next couple of weeks? And I said, yeah, we can do that. So I guess we're going to meet. I guess the good news is, since I've done a lot of my own personal work, like the thought of it doesn't terrify me, because I think in the past I would have been like, oh, encounter, conflict, got to talk about this, even though I feel like I was the one done wrong. There's still something very, very, unsettling or uncomfortable about having to, work through all the mess. So there's a part of me that's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. But part of me is like, don't really want to, because my other operating method is, oh yeah, I'll just disconnect from you because I'm introverted, so I don't really need that much connection. But I will. Part of me, I think, does want to like have this conversation and to establish the boundaries and be like, look, this is where I felt like you assume things and you cross the line, and you need to know, like, that's unacceptable to me forever in the future. And maybe you thought you knew me, or maybe you think you know how I operate, but you don't. So you need to like let this be, you need to let this sink in deep and hard. Like this is not just like an opinion or a light preference. Like this is strong for me. You just need to understand this is the hard line.
That's interesting. Talk about the conflicts and that whole thing that you wanted to avoid. Where does that come from? What causes you to say, you know what, I don't think I really want to deal with the conversation. I don't want to deal with the conflict. Because I also hear people say, I prefer to be by myself than to face, having to deal with the true conversation. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think there is a naturalness of the first layer is just like, as someone who's very comfortable with being by myself, I just don't have a strong need for people a lot of times. So if there are people who come into my life and then they leave, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, it was nice, but I'm not like longing for your friendship in a deep, super way where I'm like, oh man, I used to see that person, I'll miss out. I think the other layer, which is maybe not the natural layer, is well, okay, the next layer is kind of like, is it going to be worth it, right? Like the person I'm talking about, you just asked me, like, is there a meeting of the minds? Even though I've known this person for a while and there's been value in friendship, I mean, we don't talk that often. I mean, even this person was like, oh, Bernard, you're like me. You don't really, reach out. And they were like, I don't reach out either. So I get it. So it's not like we meet up that often anyways. So I think my kind of equation in my head says, well, since the balance of how often we meet up and how much we talk is not that much, is it going to be worth it to even have this short, uncomfortable conversation? Because it's very much like a stock market thing or a math equation. It's the risk to reward analysis. Like, will this uncomfortable conversation of me talking about how you offended me be worth the friendship in the future? Like, are we going to be better friends? Are we going to go back to normal? Are we going to have a more enriched friendship? And I guess for me, with certain other areas of like trust, sometimes it's just hard to think, oh, I'm going to be glad to have this awkward interaction because the reward on the other end is going to be that much more satisfying.
So am I hearing that the crust of this also is the trust of whether you can really trust a person in your space outside of you not really having a problem being alone?
Yeah, I mean, trust is definitely a part of it. I mean, like I said, I think definitely two levels. Like one, I think people who are very introverted don't trust a whole lot of people. It's just like, hey, there's only a few people who really I find that get me or understand me. And then the second level is like when that trust has been violated, you're that much more willing, you're that much more defensive of that little bit of trust you were willing to give out anyway. So I think in general, trusting other people is not something that I really am eager to do, because I have I guess a lot of experience with the disappointment that maybe I have a lot of expectation I'm going to be let down basically. So I think it's easier to retreat and hide than to put the trust out there again, which you already kind of assume is going to turn out how it has in the past.
That is really interesting because this whole topic today is someone I knew from high school. And so we're trying to see if we're going to cultivate a friendship. And a lot of these key things that you're talking about now is at the forefront. We grew up the same neighborhood, same type of everything, but he's a male, I'm a female, and I chose to do my work and he wants to live in the past. And it's really kind of hard to talk to him because there's that blockage. So to hear you talk about the conflict, the trust, the retreating, conversation, disappointment, because he says all those words. And I have no problem being alone. I have no problem being by myself. Why are you so nice to me? Da, 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 da. It's just all these things. And then he goes to, okay, well, I have nothing to forgive anybody for or anybody to forgive me because I'm intentional about what I do and I have no need to repent for anything and da 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 da. Da. And I'm like, wow. So is that the same frame of mind that you've gone through in your journey as well? Because I know I did some of those things, but to do it for over 30 years is kind of scary to see. So let me have your input.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the statements you just said, I definitely say those things. And I think it's partially related to if you are a person who's very much to yourself, you have less opportunities to hurt people. It's just like, hey, if I spend most of my time with me, how could I ever hurt you? Because I haven't been around you to hurt you. And I would say in a very, non-egotistical way, but I am a very thoughtful person. So when I'm around people, I'm very careful with words. I don't just speak out of turn. I don't just say stuff. If somebody came to me and said, "Oh, Bernard, those words hurt," I'd probably be like, okay, I could see how I could have said that hurt. But it's probably very, very rare because I know what it's like for people to say unthoughtful, inconsiderate words. So I'm hyper aware of what words can do. And so I think the chances that I've infracted on people are very little. I mean, part of it is probably somewhat, an inflated view, but it's also partially a very true view because I pay attention. I'm very keen. I pay attention. I'm like probably in some ways too concerned. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this or say this. And some people might be like, oh no, you should say that because they need to hear that. So yeah, I think
Yeah, I want to interject on that because that's funny. He says the same thing. So what happened was we were talking, this person remembers me from high school, and I guess his emotions got involved in something. So he just hung up the phone on me. And he finds himself kind of falling out with me like that. And I said, you really hurt my feeling, blah, blah. Well, I don't know how. I'm thoughtful what I do. I'm da, 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 da. I said, but your emotions got in the way. So based upon your emotions, you reacted a certain way. So now he feels that, well, I shouldn't have to apologize for me being me. I said, I get that. But if you're so emotional that it gets to the point that you either freeze up, can't articulate whatever went on, I said, and you do it kind of within a period of, just say 8 years, he probably done it twice. And he's used to me calling him and we go as if nothing's happened. But I refuse to do that this time because I'm healing more. And I'm like, what is that? So help me to understand what that is.
Okay, this is what I think it is. I think when you're a person who perceives yourself as not having hurt people a lot, and you also perceive yourself as someone who has helped people a lot, like, hey, I'm always considerate, I'm always thankful. You kind of gain this little blind spot or this kind of like self-righteous / like permission slip. Like if you've been hurt a lot and you feel like you haven't hurt people a lot, when you do hurt somebody, you're like, oh, well, that's just like one time. Like in the grand scheme of the economy, that's like $1 to the trillions of dollars that I've done well. So I think the sort of self-righteousness you create in yourself gives you feel like you have the license to blow up every now and then because you never feel like you get to blow up at people.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this then. So you're transmitting this energy. You appear that you want to establish a friendship. How do you expect the other person to interact with you moving forward?
So to clarify, you're saying about like particularly about the blowing up part, or which part?
Yeah, the person blew up. The person said all those words: conflict, trust, disappointment. Yeah. The whole thing. Don't have to forgive because they feel that they're very careful and all those things. But now it's awkward because since I'm doing my healing from the last time, which was 3 years ago, now you're coming back in my life. I'm feeling weird about how to deal with you now. Does that make sense?
Right. Okay. I mean, there's a lot. There's so many things. Okay, I'll give you this thing that I think of the most. I think. Okay, so, to something you said to me earlier when you were saying like how you interact with a person kind of sets this precedent for how they treat you. Like you've probably heard. You teach people how to treat you.
Right.
In my experience, I find that people who are very forgiving or who keep coming back, they give off the energy of, oh, I'm forgiving, I'm gracious, I'm long suffering, I'm compassionate, I want the relationship. So I think when I meet people like that, in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, well, they're like very resilient and enduring and durable, like Tupperware. Like when it comes to this friendship thing, they like to put up with this to a certain like they like the kind of I don't know what to call it, the
abuse.
I don't want to say abuse, but I feel like okay, I have to frame it like this. I always, like I told you, I always see things through introvert, extrovertedness. I find that most of the extroverted people I deal with, they're very like friend, people, gracious, oriented. Like they're willing to stick it out through the messiness. And I'm just like, why would you go through all this for the friendship? Like I had a falling out with somebody and they were like, the only reason I even contacted you because I care about the relationship. And I was just like, oh, that's different to me. I would just be like, peace. So when somebody's like,
no, I'm gonna let you finish.
So when someone's resilient like that, I think you can almost start to see them as they not necessarily enjoy it, but like they'll put up with it, or like, oh, you were built for this. So I think they kind of come to expect that you will put up with it, or you will be adaptable, or I feel like it's another word I'm trying to find, like resilient, adaptable. It's almost like they feel like you are okay with the way things are going, or you would leave. I think that's what it is. Okay. I think when you see things through your own personal lens, you project that on other people.
So are you hoping though that person leave? Because that's where, hold your thought, please, because that's where, back to the disappointment, that person's resilient, that person trying to give it another chance, that person is like, hey, you hurt me, you say what you say. Then after a while, if you get comfortable being that way, then all of a sudden you find that person may leave. So is that part of your whole process too?
Well, I think one I was gonna say was okay. I gotta tie all the thoughts together. I think when you get used to a person putting up with it, what was I gonna say? Like when you see a person getting used to dealing with hard things, you think to yourself, okay, I kind of lost it. All right, let me go to the next thought. Okay, here's what I think the ultimate thing is happening. I think all of us, because I've done it and people have done it to me, we all try to make God out of one another. So we try to push people to the limit, hoping that they won't reject us. It's like, oh, this person, let's see how much I can reject them. And let's see if they'll keep coming back. I think we're doing to humans what only God can handle. We're like, let's see how much this person will put up with until they finally give up on me.
Because
I think they're trying.
Because that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah, I think their goal is to like see if you love them unconditionally. They just that it's like it's very vulnerable to be like, hey, Vernita, will you just love me unconditionally? Like it's very difficult to just come out right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my human thing that says I'm just gonna keep giving you a hard time to see how much you can take and then hope you see if you're resilient. And I'm like, oh wow, you really do put up with everything. You really do love me no matter what. But like you're saying, you reach your limit as Vernita, and you're like, nah, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore. I'm not God. I'm not infinite. I don't have infinite, ability to keep forgiving.
Right.
So you leave, and then the person's like, I guess I wasn't worth it. I guess I wasn't worthy enough for them to pursue me. So we're all basically have our intentions oriented like horizontally rather than vertically. Because I'm trying to get you to pursue me. I'm trying to push you so far away to see if you'll come back. I think that's what someone who's been hurt is doing. They're like, if I can push this person far enough and they come back, it must mean I'm really worth something.
But then the thing is, are you healthy enough to deal with the person that came back? Because then the true stuff start happening. Because then that person may start checking you, and other things and things come into play too. So are you able to and ready to deal with that other stuff? Because a person can love you to the best of their ability, but then when the truth of the matter, okay, we got over that hurdle, now this hurdle, can that person who's accustomed to the disappointment, rejection, or whatever, who really tried to push you away, didn't push you away through that hurdle, can they deal with the other hurdles? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because now you're challenging them.
What's tricky though is, I think that person though who's pushing away is never really expecting the person to come back. I think they're expecting a kind of infinite push, you come back, push, you come back a little closer, push, you come back a little closer. But yeah, then when you get real close, they're like, uh-oh, like, oh, this person is actually coming back. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Now I have to be vulnerable. No, you're supposed to run away.
But you know what? That's what I noticed in my life. Good friendships have been, but I never had this kind of awkwardness, I guess, because the emotions were different. The emotions were just solid commonality, friendship, not someone who had an interest in you, from high school, and that just adds another twist to it, where I'm just like, because I don't even remember him in high school. But the thing is, he came into my life because he became my daughter's client. So it's like, oh, okay. So, you start looking at things, okay, things happen for a reason, but it's the awkwardness. It's like, oh my God, his emotional part is making it awkward for me. Does that make sense?
You might have to clarify a little bit about the reason why the high school and the emotional is making it awkward.
Okay, so this is someone that knew me in high school. I remembered him, but not as much as he remembers me. So now you fast forward, you liked somebody, and then you happen to find out, oh my God, that person's in my life again. And my thing is, I'm looking at, when things organically happen, it's for a reason. So it's like, let's cultivate this friendship. So you go through life, you try to cultivate this friendship, and it seems like when this person gets emotional, whatever that is for him, it's almost like, or maybe the vulnerability, like you said, he closes up, he'll hang up the phone, something happens. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely sound like me. Whenever something happens that's out of my control, I'm like, oh, this is divine. This is God, because I didn't control it. I didn't ask for it. So it must be something that's supposed to happen. So then you put all this sort of like, you put all this weight and meaning into it, um, because you're like, oh, this is like, this is meant to be kind of thing. Um, I mean, I think, like I said, I'll just go back to the blow up thing.
Okay.
Okay, one of my favorite quotes is "Beware the wrath of a patient man." I think people who are very patient and don't blow up often, like when they get their chance to do it, they're like, finally, finally, I get to explode. So, and maybe, I mean, this is a kind of like twisted way, but maybe maybe the person feels comfortable enough around you because they're like, oh, this person will understand me. Like I can blow up in front of this person and they're not gonna run away. I think it's back to that thing. They're like, I can if I blow up in front of this person as angry as I've ever been and they still call me, then I know they really love me. But they're probably not just gonna blow up around anybody.
And that's funny you said that, because you said you remind me a lot of my sisters, they talk about this God thing, but my whole thing is I'm not just talking it, this has been my life. And I don't sit up and say, oh, God, this, God, this, God, that. But he'll ask me something and I'll say, oh, God did this, God did that. And it's like constant, like you said, the challenging, and the pushing and I'm like, okay. And I notice I find myself not wanting to be in his presence as much. You know how a person can be a nice person, really sweet person, but because of, like you said, the vulnerability, the emotions or whatever, even though I am somewhat resilient, I find the toxicity to be sometimes overwhelming. And that's why I was asking you, how do you perceive a person dealing with you when you are giving off those energy frequencies of yourself? So I kind of understand what you're saying. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, for what you just described too, I guess it makes me think of, well, to tie back to the idea of energies. I mean, I feel like I've definitely been around people like this who it's like they're coming to you and they want something, but they don't quite know how to ask for it, or they haven't really defined it in themselves what they're looking for. But for some reason they're attracted to you in whatever way. It doesn't have to be romantic. It should be like, oh, this person's nice, or they're open, or they're a good listener, or they seem to be patient and they don't blow me off, or they'll give me the time, they'll lend me an ear, a listening ear when other people won't. And so it's like they're coming to you in a way asking for something without even asking for it.
Right.
But it's draining on you because at least if they knew what they wanted, you could be like, hey, I can give you this much of it, but that's it. Or I can't give you this at all. Or what you're looking for might be better found over there. But it's like they just keep coming back to the well, like, okay, here, I need this today. I need this. I'm just like, okay, like you're saying, like, can you leave my presence? You're taking a lot of energy from me. And I don't even know if you're getting what you want because you don't even know what you're doing.
Right, right. And then he says, oh yeah, I am so socially awkward. And, I've always had this, and he's an introvert too, but I am somewhat of an introvert myself. So that's why, because, as introverts, people's energy can drain us, especially when we're dealing with extrovert people or extrovert energy or extrovert room. So let alone someone who cannot articulate their emotions, it really makes it tiring. Instead of just saying, because I told him, I said, do you realize that you were very emotional and vulnerable? I don't remember that. So why did you just hang up one day? Well, I don't remember that either. Okay, so it's just kind of like awkward. So it's like, okay, so I find myself like, okay, I can only deal with this energy. I have to kind of like, what is it? What they say? You kind of recharge yourself. You could deal with the energy, and then you might have to take a week or two to recharge yourself because of that. But I noticed the more I see him, and it's in spurts, or thank you for letting me dump, or thank you for letting me this, or thank you for letting me that. And I am a good listener, but it's like, whoa, this is just a lot. So I appreciate your transparency. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, yeah, as you're saying, like, yeah, I mean, you're hitting on something that I've probably, I mean, it's happened to me my whole life. And maybe later in life, I finally was put the words to it. But I think with like, okay, you're talking about what kind of energy are you transmitting? The funny thing is, you can be giving off energy or a signal or message or whatever, even if you're not trying to. And so I think, especially for introverted people, we tend to draw people in. Like, I'm not an outgoing person. Like, I'm not gonna go out and, hey, are you okay? But I tend to sit in the same spot, repeatedly, where people see me in a sort of like rhythm, like, oh, that guy's always sitting there. So I think
Right.
over time, people go like, oh, he's that quiet guy who sits there. I bet he'll listen. I think introverted people are almost like a vortex. Like, there's just this strong
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And you're not trying to like say, come over to me, but you just are so quiet and so still. There's something that is attractive to people about that, even though they might never be able to put their finger on. I'll give you a story. Okay, this is a perfect story. I might have told a story before in this room, but I was on a podcast about art and healing. And before the podcast was about to start, the person, my friend who was in charge, said, hey guys, we're going to wait like 15 minutes to let a few more people show up. So everybody just go back to mingling. So everybody instantly went back to talking to their friends. And I was like, I'm not just going to start talking to somebody just because randomly. So I just leaned up against the island that was in the kitchen, and I was just standing there. And this guy came up to me and he was like, man, you were just so chill. Like, you were just, man, we need that. Like, he was just so
right, right, right. He felt that calm energy. Yes, exactly.
And it was amazing to me that he was like attracted to the idea man, a person could do that. Because you don't hear that a lot, right? You don't hear people being like, oh man, you're so quiet and ingoing. It's always like, be outgoing,
right,
go get it,
right, and be comfortable with it. Some people are not comfortable with their inwardness. Yes.
And so I think we don't really realize that people do crave that quiet spirit, but they do, because when they see somebody like that, they're strangely drawn to like, I need to go talk to this person. I don't know why. And so then they come up to you and they're like, oh, this is an open space for me just to pour out my problems. Because then you become the free therapist without asking. You're just like, wait, when did I sign up for all your problems?
Right, right. Because it's funny you said that, because I went for a massage the other day. Do you know my therapist for the whole hour told me his problems? And he said, oh, and thank you for letting me dump. I'm like, dude, I didn't purposely let you dump. You just did it.
Right. Right.
I'm paying for a service that you did not really give because you were so busy dumping. It's like, oh my God.
I mean, like with my friends, I mean, I guess it's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like a superpower, because it's funny. Like, I'll be talking to my friends about whatever, and I'm very deliberate with listening. I'm not just like a good listener. Like, there's times when I see that they're thinking, and I'm like, nope, don't interject, because they're making the connection. So I'll just listen. And the next thing I know, they're just like saying all this stuff. They're like, Bernard, what did you do to me? Like, what did you put the spell on me? Like, I was like, I didn't do anything. I just literally gave you space to listen. And you probably never had anyone do that before. And so you felt this openness to be like, oh, great, here's an opportunity to get all this out that I never do. And I think that only happens when like an introvert comes into the space to activate it.
That is funny you saying that, because I guess that's what better health is about. Because I was looking at a commercial, and I'm not sure if you've seen this one, has a hit out there, but I think the guy asks, what do you need? What do you something? And the guy started talking about something really deep and in depth. And he said, man, no, I'm talking about what you need, a one on your sandwich or something from the store or something. It just went to a whole different place. And those commercials are showing that people are hungry for someone just to listen. And it's like, wow, this is something. So that energy that's being transmitted is just crazy. It's crazy.
Right. And I think I'm trying to think, have I established these boundaries in my own life? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I may not have established these boundaries, but I think when you're a very internalized, introverted person, that value or that trait isn't valued that often. So when you do, even when you're like sort of forced to listen to people, you still feel strangely useful. People just come up to you, they start dumping, and you're like, okay, I didn't just ask for this, but then they might say something at the end. It's like, oh, you're such a good listener, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I was useful and played a purpose.
Right.
And so then I think they take advantage of that. Like some people, then they go like, oh wow, Bernard sat there and listened to me for a whole hour and didn't interrupt. That's different. I'm gonna go find him again. So then they think they have this open doorway. They think you have an open door policy now. They just come up to you or call you or text you because the first interaction seemed to be no boundary, seemed to be boundaryless. And I probably never said, hey, like I probably in that moment wasn't thinking, you know what, I should tell this person, don't ever talk to me again. Like, I didn't put up a sharp, like a strong door. Like, hey, this was just one time only. Okay, you know that, right? So it's just this weird thing of like, okay, how do you establish the boundary after this sort of first free consultation therapy?
Right. And that's funny you said that because I was sharing with the same person yesterday. We were talking about something and he said, well, do you see yourself as a leader? And I said, yeah. I said, but one thing I'm doing different now is that I'm leading by example. And once I've led you to the water, I can't make you drink. And I'm not going to keep on leading you to the same water or a different lake or a different stream or whatever, because I'm noticing how people will say, oh, I need help with this or whatever the situation is. Like you said, they'll dump on you. You try to help them out. It works. They may give you credit for it. They may not, whether it's prayer that you've helped them with or whatever. But then you want to turn around and say, so what do I do next? I don't know. I don't know what you do next because that's not my job. This is your life, at the end of the day. So.
Well, yeah, so I can't remember if I told this story in this room before. So it was about, what's this, 6 years ago. I learned a hard lesson about what you just said, leading people to water, but can't force them to drink. So speaking of energy, so the floor beneath me in my apartment, there was this guy who lived here. I mean, this guy had so many problems, but I could give you his whole story. And it was just one sad thing after another. Like, his whole life, if he told you, you'd be like, oh my goodness. And he lived with a roommate who was making his life miserable. And so I guess he started seeing me. I don't know. He said this to me one time too after we met. He said, I don't know what it was about you, Bernard, but I just kind of knew. So I just kind of knew you would be a good guy. I could just sense that or something.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, I don't know how you can do that. But anyways, because he started coming up to me and was like, hey, man, want to go out to lunch? And I was like, not really. And then, come on, man, let's just go out to lunch. So it started with that. Then it started with the texting, the constant texting, literally closed church, taking them to entertainment, like doing every possible thing, prayer, counseling. And I just got to the point where I was like, you are not taking any steps on your own. Like, I've literally taken you to every possible dimension of a way a person could be helped. And I'm like, when are you finally just going to take your own step and do something for yourself? And so I had to learn the hard way, like, hey, as hard as it is to let some people fall and hit the concrete, they have free will. And I think that's the thing. So I learned what is my job and what is God's job. And I think that makes it's more complex, especially when you subscribe to Christianity. So the story, the ending story was, we kind of went to the same church. And so I went to church one Sunday and I was like, I'm done with this guy. Like, I'm not helping him anymore. I'm going to be set free today. I'm through with the situation. And of course, what was the sermon this morning? We need to help those who need help and the people who are difficult. And we got to push them. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, is this telling me I need to stay with this person? So then I was like, I started to leave the church. And before I hit the parking lot, something was like, man, just go in and just go ask for help. Go get some prayer. So I went down. I was like, look, I just need prayer for this situation. Like, I'm helping this person. I'm ready to be done, but maybe I'm not supposed to be done. I just need to pray. And so the guy said, all right, let's pray. And he knew the guy too. And he knew some of the troubles that this guy gave him too. So he prayed and he was like, you know what? He said, I think you could be done with this. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I think you're. I was like, yes. So I learned, like, man, I think it's my job to save this person. And it was my Christian duty. And it was like, but there's like you're saying, there's some line that is drawn, some boundary where even your Christian duty is like, hey, I've done my Christian duty. I'm clocked out. Not in some kind of harsh way, hey, but you have to do something for yourself.
Yeah, and it goes back to the energy, because those people will drain you. You know, they will really drain you with the energy that they are expressing, whether it's good, bad, negative, positive. It's just a lot. It's really just a lot. So before we close, you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I guess, like I said, just to close on, I think the most important thing a person can do is say, know who you are, know your purpose, and really, know your role, and stay out of God's role, stay out of His way, because that will save you so much headache and burden from trying to be God. Like, I think that's the trickiest part. Like, we think like, oh, I need to save this person, or this person needs help. It's like, well, maybe they don't. I mean, maybe they do, but maybe it's not you. I guess that's a better way. Maybe they do need to be saved, but maybe not by you.
Right. So I'm going to end with this. I'm going back to the book, Speaking in Colors. Here's another quote. This person used the book in a different aspect. She went to a mental awareness roundtable, mental health awareness roundtable, and she used the book in a different facet. She actually took the book with her and was talking to the people in the roundtable about how the book has really helped her in her organization. She deals with a lot of youth, at-risk youth, and how the book has helped her to deal with these youth and to deal with her own life. So she says, however, as the meeting progressed, the color yellow was also previously present in the room that began to motivate all the participants by manifesting itself through a social change and a sense of the color blue, a sense of sincereness while also being thoughtful of the frequency orange, a warm feeling. The room was lavender and relatively peaceful as the meeting ended. Yes, the world is a rainbow, and the frequencies of colors in the book, Speaking of Colors, speak volumes. So I just want to say thank you for coming for another episode of 6 Saturdays, also known as Speaking in Colors Saturdays, where we meet every first and fourth Saturdays at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.